Hi, hello and welcome to this video on IELTS Speaking. For the IELTS Speaking test, the candidates need to answer different types of questions. It can be questions based on personal choices, or it can be predictions, or it can be questions based on past reference, it can be hypothetical questions, and many more. Now, the way in which you open or start your answer matters a lot. It's not in the same way that you have to start the responses to all these different question types. So in this video, I've tried to cover a few questions from different question types, and we look at the possible types of responses that students generally give for such questions, and out of the lot, which one is the best fit and why is it so? So let's start. Now, the first one you can see on the screen is a preference-based question. The question goes like this: do you prefer spending time indoors or outdoors? So you're asked to make a choice whether you like spending time indoors or outdoors. And what are the four options? A, I always liked being outside, but I changed recently. B, yes, outdoor activities are great, I love them. C, I would say I generally prefer being outdoors. It helps me relax. D, actually sometimes I go outside, sometimes I don't. Now, which of these do you think is the best choice? I would say that option C is the best. Why? Because now they are giving an option to choose between indoors or outdoors. So in such cases, when you're asked to make a choice, it's always good to start by saying that I generally prefer, or I would rather prefer being outdoors or indoors, choose one, and then give the reasoning for the same. Just your answers need to be straightforward. Just directly focus on the question and give a prompt response to the question, and then give an explanation as to why you have opted for that. When it comes to A, option A, I always liked being outside, but I changed recently. You are making an unnecessary reference to the past, which is in no way required. So that option cannot be considered. Then option B, yes, outdoor activities are great. I love them. So you're just focusing on outdoor activities. You're directly saying, generally you're talking about outdoor activities without stating your preference. So here the preference is missing. Then option D, actually sometimes I go outside, sometimes I don't. So there also the answer is not quite clear. You've given kind of vague response. So for these reasons, the best fit would be option C. And in cases where you're given a choice to choose between two, it's always good to start by saying that I would say I generally prefer whichever side you're preferring, or you can say that I would rather prefer whichever side you are preferring, and then give an explanation why you prefer that. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. Opinion-based question. Do you think teenagers should have part-time jobs? That's the question. Now the options: A, actually in my opinion it depends on their school workload. Option B, no, I don't think they should ever work while in school. Then C, yes, I agree teenagers must earn. Option D, I don't have a strong opinion on that. Now, which do you think out of these would be the best choice? I cannot say that a specific option is completely wrong. This is just a comparison, which is relatively better than the other. Now, if you look at option D, I don't have a strong opinion on that, that is not a right kind of response, I would say that. When a question is being asked, the examiner is asking that question to test your language skill or language proficiency. So just restricting yourself by saying that I don't have a strong opinion on that, I don't think it's a right response. Then considering B and C, no, I don't think they should ever work while in school. And option C, yes, I agree teenagers must earn. Both of these are extreme opinions. I wouldn't say them as wrong, but when an opinionated question is asked, it's always better to start off by saying that you can use a natural filler like actually, well, you can start with a filler if needed. And then because an opinion is being asked, okay, you might not be prepared for that, just like a question based on personal choice. So you might need time just to think, so you can go for any natural filler like actually, well, and then in my opinion. That is also important. Do you think? That is being asked. So your opinion is what is required. So it's good to start off by saying that actually in my opinion, or actually I think it depends on their workload. Instead of giving an extreme opinion, you can say it depends. You cannot say which would be like it is necessary or not. It depends on their workload, which means that you will be expanding on the idea, which actually gives the examiner an opportunity to assess your language proficiency. Now, it's always better when such opinionated questions come. You can start off by saying that in my opinion, and then say that it depends on their workload. For instance, like then you give statements or sentences supporting both aspects. If the workload is less, then what is the case? And if the workload is more, what is the case? So you get to speak more when you are giving a kind of balanced opinion. So I would say that in such cases, you can go for a balanced opinion. Now, if you're going for an extreme opinion, you just get to talk on one side, thereby, limiting the kind of sentences or the words that you can put in. But at the same time, if you go for a balanced opinion, which the examiner probably might be looking out for, you get to speak more. So considering that, I would say that option A is the best fit here. Now, moving on to the next question. A question based on past experience. Describe a time when you helped someone. Describe a time when you helped someone. So it's a reference to the past. Let's look at the options. A, actually, I'm not sure if I've helped anyone. B, helping is important and I think people should do it. Option C, well, I remember last year I helped my friends with his studies. Option D, I used to help others often, but not now. Now, which do you think would be the best choice? Option B, helping is important and I think people should do it. I wouldn't go with that option because it's kind of way too general. Describe a time when you helped someone. So this sounds very general. And then considering option D, I used to help others but not now. So that is also a not good way because they have not asked about what is the status now. They've asked about a past reference only. So this is quite unnecessary. Then considering option A, actually I'm not sure if I've helped anyone. Here also I would say that you're just limiting your speaking. It's limited. So that also I wouldn't second that option. Now coming to option C, I would say that option C is the best fit. How does it start? Well, again, a filler. I remember last year, which means that you have made a recall. So when such questions with a reference to the past comes in, it's always good to begin with a recall statement, so that you are establishing that, or you're making it clear to the examiner that you are recalling something from the past. You're making it very clear. How did it start? I remember last year, or you can go for phrases like back in 2000. Again, you're recalling something from the past. Or you can say that during my college days. This is again a kind of reference to the past. So you just put in that recall statement. I remember last year, or in 2015, or in 2005, or you can say like back during my college days, I used to help. So you start off that, you give an opening, and then you unfold the story. So this is the best option when it comes to questions asking for a past experience. Again, I'm stressing best option. I wouldn't say the only correct option. All options have, in a way or other, they are fine, but the best fit would be this. Now, if you get a hypothetical question, if you could learn any new skill, what would it be? If you could, an imaginary question, what would it be? Option A says, I would probably choose painting because it seems relaxing. B says, I choose painting because it is a good skill. I choose painting. Like the option, it's an imaginary question. So I choose painting. When can you say I choose painting? If you're given the option now. If you're given an option to learn a new skill now, then what are you going to choose? Then I can say that I choose painting. The option is there right in front of you. But here the question is, if you could learn. It's an imaginary one. So this cannot be a right choice. Option C, I'll definitely choose painting. Okay. Option D, I love painting because. I love painting because you directly started talking about painting. I love painting. Now the question is that if you could learn any new skill, what would it be? So first you have to state that skill and then start talking about it. But option B, directly jump to I love painting because without making a reference on to which skill you would be choosing. Now between A and C, here C says that I'll definitely choose painting. Here also will is used. Here also I would. Both refer to the future because it's a speculation. It's a hypothetical kind of question. Out of these two, I would say that A is better because it's a kind of hypothetical, imaginary question wherein having a definite answer, the possibility of having a definite answer is less, and a probability, always you can have a probability only. So considering if you have to choose between these two, I would say that this would be a better opening. I would probably, I'm not sure. I'm hearing this question for our first time. It's totally imaginary. So in that case, you cannot be very certain and say that I will choose this. Rather, it would be better if you can say that, okay, I would probably, you have not thought about it really. So I would probably choose painting because it seems relaxing. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now moving on to the next one, comparison. If the question demands comparison, is it better to study alone or in a group? Now let's look at the options. Well, it depends on the person's learning style. B, I never study in groups, they are useless. I never study in groups, they are useless. But it's not a personal question. Is it better to study alone or in groups? It's a general question. But here you have made a personal choice. So that is incorrect. You've started off with a personal opinion, that personal choice. So that's wrong. Then C, studying alone is always the best. I don't know really. Again, this is a kind of, vague or limited answer, I would say that. Limited or restrictive kind of answer, wherein you don't have a possibility to expand on that idea. So this is definitely not a good way of starting a sentence. Never open your answer by saying that I really don't know. Start in a positive way and then try expanding on it with ideas that you might know, at least remotely, about that particular topic. Now, between A and C, C says that studying alone is always the best. A says that, well, it depends on the person's learning style. Just like I've mentioned before regarding opinionated questions, when questions related to comparison comes, here also it's always good to go for a balanced approach rather than choosing one extreme side. Here, this is an extreme option. Studying alone is always the best. But if you go for a balanced approach, the advantage is that you get to speak regarding both the aspects, regarding studying alone as well as studying in groups. So you get to speak more, you can express more, you can express your language skills there. And the examiner would be looking at that. So just like opinionated questions, here also if you go for a balanced approach by saying that it depends, it would be a better choice. So for that reason, we can go with A. Now, again, asking for a personal example. Can you give an example of a time you learned something by mistake? Okay, so let's see the different ways in which students generally start this. Sure, for example, I once learned how to fix a tap when it broke. Then learning is lifelong and mistakes help us grow. Way too general. Then D, I have no example, sorry. Again, this kind of starting is not recommended. Option C, I think I might like to learn in the future. What about this? This is again wrong because it's talking about future when the question asks about something from the past. Example of a time you learned something. They are making a reference to the past, but here the answer starts off by referring to the future. So obviously option A is the right, and this is the right way to start. Can you give an example of a time you learned something by mistake? So how will you start your response? Start by saying that, sure. Sure, for example, sure or definitely, you can say that, certainly, or you can say definitely. And then you say provide the example. So can you give an example of something? Means sure or definitely I can give an example, and then provide whatever the example is. Now moving on to the next one. Unsure. If you're not really sure about a topic and you get a question based on that, now how will you manage that situation? What is your opinion on space tourism? So you have no idea regarding space tourism. You are totally blank. Now what to do? Let's look at the different ways in which students generally open such questions. I have no idea, maybe next time. Do you think it's the right way? No. Okay, I agree that you have no idea regarding the topic, but let's see, even if you don't have idea regarding such topics, what are the possible ways in which you can make the examiner feel that you have language skills? Because this test is not going to assess your IQ or knowledge on a specific subject. What they're looking for is your language proficiency. Now, option C, yes, people can go to space. Yes, people can go to space. Where is your opinion here? No? Then I can't answer that. Again, this is not a good way of starting an answer. B, I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like an exciting idea. This sounds good. So you've made it clear, you've put it straightforward that I'm not entirely sure about the idea, but it seems like an exciting idea. You can start off in that way, and then just add on the bits and pieces what you have heard regarding that topic. Maybe you can say that I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like an exciting idea. People get a chance to explore space. Then maybe you can say that, but I think it's going to be expensive and it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. Just add on ideas randomly, which of course it has to be coherent to the question, but whatever you have heard related to space can be added on or knitted well to form a fully developed answer, rather than just giving up by saying I can't answer that or I have no idea, maybe next time. Start off in a very good way, in a very honest way, by saying that I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like an exciting idea. Then pull off the answer. Okay, so I hope I have covered some of the question types, majority of the question types, I guess, and the different ways in which you can open or start off answering the questions which comes under each of these categories. Now, what I would like to say is that you should not wait until the test day to apply these techniques. Right through your practice every day when you're practicing your speaking test or when you're practicing your speaking, you should be applying these and analyze where you've gone wrong, what could be done to improve yourself. You can record your speaking and listen back to what you've heard and do improvisation. Okay, so then one more thing, you need to keep in mind that the examiner is not going to assess your academic English. He is just going to see whether with your language skills you'll be able to fit into an English speaking country among native English speakers. So keeping that in mind, speak straightforward, and your answers need to be accurate, appropriate and relevant to the question, and speak in a very natural way. Thank you, and stay tuned until we are back with our next video.
MedCity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.